Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lighthouse sessions. Today, I have my special guest, Jason Barnard, with me. Jason, why don't you tell my audience just a little bit about you in terms of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, lovely to be here, Jeff. Thank you very much. I'm Jason Barnard. I'm the CEO and founder of Kalicube, an award-winning entrepreneur and innovator. And innovation is all about building Kalicube Pro, which is a 9.4 billion data point platform that we use to optimize the personal brand of our entrepreneur clients so that when somebody asks Google or ChatGPT or another AI about them, they look like a superstar. They have the authority that they deserve to have. And if somebody asks to compare them to somebody else within their industry, they come out on top every time.
I love that. Now, I'm going to be clear. I see a lot of noise out there, and I call them the brobots. They're like, oh, I can get you ranked in ChatGPT. And I'm going to be honest, there's a bunch of garbage out there, which is why I wanted you here, because first and foremost, you and I are old enough and we've got a little gray in our beards. I trust you, and I know you've been around. What are some of the biggest BS myths you're hearing right now about personal branding and ChatGPT and AI in general?
Well, what seems to be happening is that people are talking about brand, but they're not walking the walk. And ChatGPT, Google, AI depend on understanding your brand, your personal brand or your corporate brand, or both indeed, to be able to understand who you are, what you do, who you serve. If they can understand that, they know who you can who they can recommend you to, and then they will recommend you if they see you as the most credible solution. But the problem with a lot of the stuff I see out there is that they're playing tricks again. So it's back to the old days of white text on a white background, but the new trick is listicles is the classic one, where somebody will tell you, I can get you to be the leader in, let's say, digital marketing in New York City. And they show you the result from ChatGPT for the query, who is the leader in digital marketing in New York City? What they don't tell you is if you ask who's the best or who is the top, you don't get anywhere. So it's tricking people into thinking that this specific query that they've designed to rank for means that they're ranking for everything. And the other problem is people track keywords in ChatGPT and other AI, and keywords don't have any real value because people don't use ChatGPT in a keyword manner as they used to with Google search. It's 5 words or more as part of a conversation that we have no insight into. So all of your conversation with ChatGPT are private. We have no visibility into what those conversations are. There are an infinite number of things that people can talk about with ChatGPT and an infinite number of variants.
Yeah.
And every answer that ChatGPT or Google AI Mode or Copilot or Perplexity gives is completely unique to that specific situation. So that's the second BS, is we can track this. What you can do is track things that make sense. And we actually, within Kalicube, have a system for figuring out what those bottom of funnel and middle of funnel queries are and gauge the temperature. So you can't know, but you can gauge the temperature. So what we do for our clients is track knowledge, the knowledge graph, which sources Google and ChatGPT are using for knowledge about you to understand who you are, credibility signals, search results for your name, AI outputs for your exact name. Those measure understanding and credibility, what they think about you. And then we track specific queries that we know are very relevant, but we don't ever pretend that they're the exact queries your audience are using. We're saying this is to take the temperature and demonstrate that the machine understands who you are and understands that you are the best solution in market. Beyond that, tracking is, drops in the ocean that you can't actually draw any conclusions from.
Well, and I think that's some great things just right in there in the opening, because I think there's a lot of overstated confidence. I'm going to say, between you and me, somebody clearly went to ChatGPT and said, tell me how to sell my services, getting people ranked in ChatGPT. And, you know, unfortunately, ChatGPT is kind of like an over-enthusiastic mom who'll put your stuff on the fridge and say, oh, my child is brilliant. No, not always. So I have a little bit of hesitation listening to them, because that's the fundamental. When I look at Google and, you know, the business model Google's built, there's a lot of hidden stuff, but they're fairly transparent about, you know, what's working, search volume, things like that. Whereas I find, you know, looking at the open AI and other AI models, there's a lot of black box mystery stuff, and anyone who pretends to fully understand the black box piece, I get really suspicious of. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, it is. And I like the black box statement, because I'd started giving talks at conferences in 2015, and I kicked off with, I don't know what's in the black box.
Yeah.
And with AI, even Google engineers and ChatGPT engineers don't know what's in the black box. And there is no point in trying to figure that out. What you can do is have a good idea of how the black box generally functions, what the engineers have told it to do, what the aim of the black box is, and what the guardrails they've put in place. And then you need to figure out, with this input, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, what is the output of the black box, and can I be reasonably confident in my prediction of what that output will be? And the bit in between, pretending you know what's actually going on in the brain of the algorithm, is foolish in the extreme. You will never know. You can never know. Nobody knows, not even Google and ChatGPT engineers. And the best we can do, and it's what Kalicube does, is we've got 9 billion data points covering 70 million brands, 1 million entrepreneurs. And we have enough data to say, historical data over the last 10 years, to say, if we put in these signals, we will probably get this output. And that probably is well over 80% accurate. And I would even say, if I talk to Elisa, she would say, oh no, Jason, it's actually 95%, because we have the advantage of human instinct and intelligence. So data takes you so far. Then you look at what plan our machine has built up for you based on its 9 billion data points. And you say, okay, number one, what do I think as a human being? What does my experience tell me? And I've got 10 years of experience with this. Elisa's got 4 years of experience in it, doing this day after day after day after day. Number two is, what makes business sense? And that's what a lot of people forget, is we're actually trying to make money and drive business. So remove the stuff that's vanity and keep the stuff that's going to make you money. And then, what does the market look like? What's the competition look like? And so we have a secondary analysis, which is the market data. And that makes all the difference in the world. Where are you positioned? How are you framing things compared to your competitors? And I'll come back to the 10 years of data collection. We've got 10 years of data going back to 2015, covering Google, Bing, ChatGPT now, Perplexity, and so on and so forth. I have 13 years of experience in brand, in search and now AI. Elisa has 4 years. Deanie has 2 years. My team overall has 100 years in digital marketing. That experience is irreplaceable. Anybody who's turned up recently and said, I know all about brand, my challenge to you is, have you been tracking it and working on it for the last 10 years? And the answer is almost always no.
Yeah. Well, realistically, the people I'm hearing that say I'm a brand expert, 10 years ago, they were in high school.
Or 10 years ago, they were building backlinks or writing white text on a white background or chasing keywords that don't matter. Or building page speed reports saying we've got from 50 to 60 and that's a huge difference to your business, where page speed was always only a tiebreaker for Google. And I mean, I get clients come in and say, oh, my agency's got us from a score of 50 to 90 and we paid them $10,000. And you say, well, you've just wasted $10,000. Not that page speed isn't important. It is important for your users. But for Google and ChatGPT, I was like, well, that difference in speed does not matter. And so your agency has got you to measure something or has got you to spend money on something they can measure. So they come in and say, well, we've gone from 50 to 80 or 90, whatever the score is on Lighthouse. Therefore, you owe us $10,000. It's only because they can measure it. And it's the same thing with tracking. We can track it, and therefore we're worth our money because we can show you an increase in supposed visibility. But once again, it's supposed visibility because you don't know. What you can know is how many people are coming through to your website from ChatGPT and how many are buying. And the conversion rate from ChatGPT or Google AI mode is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times higher than it was from search. And you need to look at Google Analytics to know that.
Well, and it's interesting because I have noticed when the models first came out, you just got an ugly raw link and you got sent to the website. And now they've got the tracking embedded in ChatGPT. I assume the other models I haven't checked, but they're starting, the users are starting to understand they need to track. Because to me, I don't care how many people search up and go, oh, I like this guy. What I'm looking for is, as an entrepreneur, how many people come through to my website or wherever and actually buy something, because truly that's the only metric that keeps my lights on is the cash coming in from it.
Yeah, 100%. And the problem for an entrepreneur for your personal brand is, which is what we deal with, is it's about how do I look when somebody Googles my name or asks ChatGPT, because they're doing due diligence. And we're going to get a client on board soon, and they are saying to us, the government is going to do due diligence on us to decide if we get our license or not. Yeah. And that due diligence is fundamentally important to their business. And there is no price on that, because without the license, their business doesn't exist. Yeah. And we need to make sure, we come in to make sure that when the grey suits of government come and look online to figure out whether or not they're actually qualified to get the license, the grey suits need to be absolutely convinced that it's the case. Then once the grey suits are convinced they give the license, then the personal brand can start driving business, which is when the clients start Googling or asking ChatGPT or asking for some kind of comparison.
I love it. Now, let's talk. I want to get into the personal brand and how you got to where you are today. But first, I'm going to throw something at you that might be a bit of a curveball. What questions should somebody be asking their branding expert before they work with them? And I feel like one of them is, what's your data set? Because honestly, the nerd in me, 9 billion data points, it's like, ooh, let's slice and dice that. But I'm going to guess most people will say data what?
Yeah, well, number one is data. You're right. If you don't have data, you can't understand what's going on, and you can't make that prediction of, if I put this in, what comes out the other side. Number two is real experience. Give me proof that you've been working on this for 10 years or 5 years or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
And another one is people say, well, I'll create content that will then rank in ChatGPT. And my question then is, okay, you've created the content. What are you doing to make it? And here's a long list, so get ready. I'll take a big deep breath. Your content will mean nothing if it doesn't pass these tests. It needs to be discovered. It needs to be selected. It needs to be crawled. It needs to be rendered, and it needs to be indexed. So a bot can discover your content by seeing a link. Does it select to follow that link is another question. It doesn't necessarily. Fabrice Canel from Bing told me, we look at links and we try to guess if it's spam on the other side, if it's useful on the other side. If we don't think it is, the bot won't even go through the link, because we're trying to reduce our footprint on the planet and the web. So discover, then it selects because the link looks tasty.
Yeah.
Then it crawls. If it crawls but it can't render, you've lost the game already. If it can then render, what does it render? Is there too much JavaScript? Can it render that JavaScript? If it can't, that JavaScript is, in essence, whatever content that JavaScript is delivering is useless. Once it's rendered, it tries to index. So we've got through those 5 stages of crawling, which is what Fabrice Canel from Bing, Mr. Bingbot, taught me.
Yeah.
Then it's rendered the page and it's going to try and index it. And indexing is more complex than a lot of people think. It looks at the page and it tries to chunk it Google call it passages, Microsoft call it chunks. Break it into chunks that are meaningful. Each chunk is then stored in the index separately. So it's like a folder system where the page is the parent folder and each chunk is a little folder that come together to make the page. So if it can't chunk it, it can't index it. So if it can't chunk it, you're dead in the water. Next, when it's chunked it, it needs to analyze each chunk and identify what's in there, what topics, what entities, what information. And that it does by analyzing the content with a large language model like ChatGPT or OpenAI, or a small language model. And it analyzes it and finds out or figures out what entities are in there, what attributes, what information, and attributes a confidence score to it. So if it can identify the information but attributes a low confidence score, you're losing the game. But if it can annotate it and give it a higher confidence score, you're going to win the game. Why? Because the algorithms, whichever one you're talking about, select the passages using those annotations and the confidence score, not by looking at the content. So if you're not annotated correctly, you're not even in the game. And if you're annotated correctly, you are in line to be selected. But if the confidence score is too low, you will not be selected. So you're not even in the algorithm to be considered. So that entire spectrum is discover, select, crawl, render, index, chunk, annotate. What confidence do we have? So until your content, each piece of content passes all of those tests, you're writing for nothing. You're writing in the wind.
Well, and honestly, if you're using ChatGPT solely as your writing partner, I'm going to guess that. Apparently I hit a nerve. Sorry. But the reality is, if you're using ChatGPT and it's the sole source of your thought, which, by the way, a lot of these younger people and younger agencies are doing, I'm guessing all of those things are tricky. But if we get down to the confidence level, I'm going to guess that's low because it's not a unique thought. It's just a rehashing of a common thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's worse than confidence level low. It's this isn't interesting at all because I already have this information. So you've just hit on the biggest question for the next couple of years is once the LLM has the information, it has no reason to get it from you.
Yeah.
So there is no point in writing with an LLM because the LLM simply spits out the information it already has.
Yeah.
And that problem is going to get increasingly problematic. Is in 2 years, the LLMs will have the vast majority of the information they need to function. At that point, getting the LLM to even look at your content is going to be a huge challenge. And the only way to get it to look at your content, once you've fulfilled, as I've said, those 8 stages of crawling and indexing, is to have information that's either original, new, that it doesn't already have, a new perspective on old information that it already has. So you have to bring a new perspective to something within your industry that's already been written about, and it's interested in your perspective on that information, or data, i.e. numbers. So once again, we come back to data. Kalicube has 9.4 billion data points. We have the data to present to the machines, and we can pull data from the web and extrapolate using your voice to frame that data in a way that the machine will then be interested. So then what you need to do over time is make sure the machine is consistently interested in your information. And this is important, from your brand. So if the information from my brand is on your website for this podcast, it will be interested in your podcast because my information is interesting. Or it will be interested in my information on your podcast because your podcast is interesting. Both are wins.
Yeah.
So it's not just my website. My website remains incredibly important. But because it recognizes my brand, Jason Barnard or Kalicube, wherever I put this information, it's going to go, oh, Jason Barnard, that's interesting. This guy gives new perspectives, new information, new data all the time. I will look at that and I will consider it. I will consider it by default to be something interesting and new, what I call tasty content. So if we look at it that way, you need to be frictionless for the bots and tasty for the algorithms.
I love it because it's kind of, I'm seeing, the mass-produced ChatGPT content. That's the empty calories of,
Yeah.
candy and soda pop, whereas the tasty stuff, that's what it's looking for is, somebody who can prepare something unique that is not there. Now, let's back up half a step. You and I could talk about the data all day long, and I feel like you and I are going to have a conversation just about data points and data sets. I'm obsessed with data science. Not a hat I usually wear in public because we tend to get laughed at as nerds, but I spend most of my time, and it's funny because I'm building in my head the hierarchy of the data that you just gave, and it's like, oh, that's fun to put together. Now, let's talk about you as a human being and the brand that is Jason, because one of the caveats or requirements to be on the show is you're a visionary entrepreneur. And you didn't just come to this Kalicube by accident 10 years ago. So let's, I won't go to the full origin story. Just know, audience, that Jason has run multiple businesses. And I think that's what, I seem critical of the young people with no experience, but until you've skinned your knees a few times, fallen on your face, it's a little disingenuous to say I'm an expert. I've earned every piece of expertise that I claim to have. Let's talk about how you came to start Kalicube and how that's progressed for you, because I think that's the piece people want to hear.
Yeah, oh, well, brilliant. Well, I started on the internet in 1998, so the year Google was incorporated. So me and Google, we've grown up together. I don't think Google particularly noticed me, but I definitely noticed Google.
They were there, yeah.
Yeah, well, and like everybody else, I was writing white text on a white background back in 1998. It worked. That's absolutely fine. And I think it's important to remember, playing tricks like that, short term, why not?
Yeah.
But don't rely on it long term. Don't think it's always going to work, and be prepared to be punished. So that's your game, is it will only work for a certain amount of time. I will be constantly chasing the algorithm, and the algorithms might punish me. And here's the problem. Before, it was a human being clicking on the punish button, the penalty button. Now it's an algorithm, and the human beings can't control it. So if the algorithm, let's call it algorithmic sulking. If the algorithms are sulking, how on earth do you convince it to stop sulking? There is no button.
Yeah.
So be very wary of all of the cheating and the BS stories that people are going to tell you. And it's a very, very fine line. And I would advise you against it, because building a brand is what it's all about. Now, building a brand started in 1998. I had a company called Up to 10. It was an ed tech platform. And we made cartoons for kids, games for kids, and we had 1 billion page views in 2007. So when I pivoted to digital marketing in 2012, Google result for my name was Jason Barnard is a cartoon blue dog, because I was a voiceover artist, and it was focusing on the voiceover artist aspect and not the CEO and founder of Up to 10, who had signed deals with ITV Studios, Disney, Lagardère, Samsung. And what I realized is
companies, right?
Small companies that nobody's heard of. I needed to pivot my brand narrative, my personal brand narrative, and convince Google, educate Google to say what I wanted to say. So I spent 3 or 4 months changing my brand narrative across my entire digital footprint to talk about the CEO entrepreneur rather than the blue dog. And once I'd done it, it said Jason Barnard is this incredibly impressive CEO, entrepreneur, digital marketer. Implication is you can trust him to work with him. Whereas before, implication is you can't trust him to work with him because he's a cartoon blue dog.
And he might bring cartoon fleas to the party.
That's the first time anyone said cartoon fleas to me. And it was incredibly powerful. I lost well over $1 million in deals because Google was representing me as a cartoon blue dog and not as the credible digital marketer and entrepreneur that I am.
Yeah.
And then I realized this is something that every entrepreneur needs. Whether they know it or not is a different matter. So Google is your business card. ChatGPT is your AI resume, let's say. And I built Kalicube, or started Kalicube in 2015 to serve entrepreneurs and their companies with brand building. And what I've struggled with is convincing entrepreneurs and their companies and their marketing departments that you should start at the bottom of the funnel and not at the top. And another BS is people come in with their agency and say, let's go for all these top of the funnel queries. And the problem there is you're aiming at a huge expanse of potential queries, potential conversations now in AI, that you can't possibly answer everything.
Right.
At the top of the funnel, you're throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that you're going to hit the no, that's not the right analogy. You're throwing a drop of water in the ocean thinking it's going to make a difference. Whereas if you start at the bottom of the funnel with the brand, I mean, for me, bottom of the funnel is when the brand name is mentioned, whether it's my brand name plus reviews, my brand name on its own, my brand name versus a competitor. I'm looking for those branded queries because that person knows who I am. They're bottom of the funnel, ready to make a decision, and they just need the AI or Google to push them over the edge to sign with me. That's the low-hanging fruit. That's the easy win today. That's the money-making win today. And if you can do that, then you have what we call a Kalicube understandability. The machine understands who you are, what you do, who you serve. And once they've understood who you are, what you do, and who you serve, you can move up the funnel. Do they recommend you above your competition? Best digital marketer in New York City, that's a middle of funnel query where a brand name naturally comes up, and you need your brand name to come up at that point.
I love it. And I want to underline who you are, what you do, who you serve. If your quote unquote brand agency doesn't ask you those three questions, run like hell. Is that fair?
Yes, that is very fair. That's a very, very good point. Very succinctly put. Thank you.
I love that you and I, we talk about it. We walk past it like it's blindingly obvious. But to most entrepreneurs, they don't understand that, how do you target if you don't know who you serve, who you are. So now
often the first conversation we have is that philosophical question. And the answer is very rarely incredibly clear. Who are you? What do you do? Who do you serve? What's your offer? And then you say, well, why are you the most credible solution? Why are you the best in market? And they say, well, everybody knows it. Oh, I don't. Show me online the proof, line it up, and show me that you're going to prove to me that your claim that you are the best in market is provable. And if it's not provable, we need to create the proof, and then we need to communicate that proof to the algorithms.
I love it. Now, in the interest of time, I have one more question, and then I'm just going to have you back as a return guest because there's so much we haven't touched. How can people find you? Where can they learn more about you and Kalicube? And what does working with you look like in the short term?
Well, you can find me by Googling my name or Kalicube. Or asking Google AI mode, or asking ChatGPT, and it will tell you all about me, and it will give you follow-up questions, which I love. And we can influence those follow-up questions. So you search for Jason Barnard, it will ask, do you want to know more about him as an entrepreneur? Do you want to know more about him as a digital marketer? And sometimes, if you're lucky, it will ask if you want to know more about me as a cartoon blue dog. If you choose as a digital marketer or an entrepreneur, then you can ask it, what does it look like working with Jason Barnard and Kalicube? And the answer will probably be, Jason Barnard is one of the world's leaders in personal brand in Google and AI. You can work with him in order to make sure that Google and AI represent your personal brand or your corporate brand accurately, positively, convincingly, and that you dominate the bottom of the funnel and the middle of the funnel with your personal brand name and your corporate brand name. And sorry, I was going to say, we're in the process now of communicating to ChatGPT and Google the timelines and the KPIs that we offer our clients. So soon you'll be able to ask it, or it will proactively suggest, here are the KPIs, here are the timelines.
Love it. And by the way, I searched ChatGPT, and it said something about it brought up at first thing was SERP. And then it brought up the cartoons, and then your interest in music. So there you go.
Yeah, well, and that's the deep and we can end with this because it's an interesting point, is although it prioritizes the digital marketing through the brand SERP and the focus on Google and AI, it knows my story, my history as a blue dog and a musician, and it will mention them, but I have control. They are not the priority. So once again, what I've done is change the focus. I'm multifaceted like everybody, but I've been able to change the focus of the machines. Despite my fame. I mean, 1 billion page views in 1 year is huge worldwide fame for Cartoon Blue Dog. So I had to get the machines to understand that although I had that immense success as a Cartoon Blue Dog, that isn't the focus today.
Yeah.
And we all have that problem. Our past can often overpower our present. And when that happens, the present isn't serving us to its maximum advantage. And one of the jobs we do is to take all of your past, frame it so that it serves your present to your maximum advantage. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm going to underline that last statement because honestly, that's probably the fundamental challenge of visionary entrepreneurs. Most of us are either Renaissance people or we're serial entrepreneurs, or we do multiple things. You know, put me in a bucket and there's no bucket that's big enough to make sense. And yet I think a lot of us were trying to be ranked in one thing. And yet, as you said, we bring this legacy with us that may or may not serve where we are today.
Yeah. I mean, I would say we all have multiple buckets. Which bucket do you put at the front and which ones are in the background?
Well, which one's tasty and which one are we authentic and unique in, right? Yeah, all right, Jason, brilliant. I'm sorry. I want to let you back to your day. You and I are going to have another conversation because I guarantee people are going to want more. But thank you for being a guest on the show.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I'm sorry about the background noise if you could hear it. But that was a lovely show, lovely questions. And I really, really, really look forward to coming back and talking more. Because as you say, there's so much to share.